Office hours was I started office hours originally to
Lure chicks to your condo.
well I was to get into your pants. True or false?
I think so. But then you had that hernia operation, and you were constantly.
You're ruining everything that I had set up.
Oh,
You're supposed
wait.
to say yes or no.
Okay, what was the question?
Okay, office hours. I created office hours originally as a way to get into your pants because we were friends. True or false?
Yes, I believe that.
Do you really believe that?
I do believe
Okay.
that.
I thought you were gonna say false. Office. This is the exposition part. Like when you watch a bad sitcom or movie, there's a chunk of dialogue that they need to get information out, so they ask a question and they. Office hours was originally created as a way for people to ask questions and for me to answer them. Because I was getting a lot of questions on Tumblr, and I thought that video would be an easier way to do this, and also there, I don't think there are a lot of platforms where you could talk to a licensed therapist and get some advice or comment or
That's
feedback,
him.
or life coach. And at the time,
I'm the mental patient. I think that's a better name for the show: the therapist and the mental patient.
the therapist and his patient.
And no, I'm not your patient.
And so okay, oh, at the time we were friends. So just quickly, the story of this. At the time we were friends, and I was living in a beat up condo or apartment, so renting a room in Koreatown, and we called it the Heartbreak Hotel because everyone that lived there was going through a breakup, and it was almost like transitional living for people going through expired relationships. So in
That's
that
a freak show.
yeah, and so in that little apartment in K-Town, that's actually where I started being a therapist. We would meet every Mondays at what was it, like 6 p.m. And she would come over, and then I would lower her in with food.
Food?
I would go to Sizzler
Which
next door.
you pretended you made yourself.
Well, no, I would go and buy food like a Sizzler, and then I would put it on a dish.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, baby corn, this is interesting. And you did that almond crusted salmon. I was like, now it's like toast and tuna. That's
Whenever you go out to eat and there's baby corn on the plate, question that. Okay, so we have a bunch of questions, and we are continuing. We've been off. We haven't done videos in a long time, so we're gonna try
Yes.
to make an effort to do this.
I'm gonna try not to turn bright red too, but it seems like that's not successful so far. Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's part of this whole thing. You turning red. I think a lot of people tune in to see how red your neck is. Look, it's getting redder.
It's getting
as-
redder
yeah.
as we talk about it.
Okay. It's also because the air conditioning's not on. I think it's on, but it's.
It is 200 degrees in here.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we do this? I will turn the air on. You read the first question, okay? And then when I come back, we'll answer.
Okay, which one? Right there?
Yeah, the first one.
Okay. I was broken up with last month, and I came across your post listing post-breakup tips. Now I've removed him from all social media. There's nothing left that would keep me from moving on. I'm incredibly busy throughout the day, so that definitely helps. And yet, every night my mind wanders to him. I can remove him from my life, but how do I erase him from my mind and heart? Oh.
So this is a breakup question, right?
Yeah,
And
I didn't finish because I was awing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I need to forget him, and yet I can't let go of all of the wonderful memories. Any advice?
I find that when helping people going through breakups, the biggest hurdle with breakups is usually missing the person. But I think that if you really think about it, you're not really missing the person. You're playing back the I have here the Instagram version of your highlight reel, meaning a lot of filters.
Yeah, and crops. A lot of crops.
A lot of crops. A lot of
Just
filters.
crop out that nice piece.
Yeah, exactly. Zoning in on the
Yeah.
moment or whatever, and and then all of the emotions come up, but it's not true. I think the way that we play things back aren't accurate.
Yeah, there's
And-
a lot of bad feelings in there too that you're not gonna replay.
Yeah, and I always tell people to play back the documentary if they can, and to remember how things really were and why.
Like the reality of the
Right.
situation, right?
And why it didn't work out, because you're not with that person for a reason. Whenever I'm doing videos, I don't know where to look. I don't know.
Well, it
if I
helps
look at
if
the
you move
webcam.
in front of the camera a little bit.
Okay.
You're inching off to the side.
So, so what do you think? I need to forget about him, and yet I can't let go of all the wonderful memories. First, redefine. Look, and you know what? Some memories probably were wonderful, right? But I think most of us, we keep playing back that distorted, the highlight reel, and so stop doing that. I think also it's great that you have, and this is very hard to do. You've cut your cord with people with social media.
Yeah, that
Because
definitely helps.
That because of the internet now, we are all spies, and whenever we break up someone, we convince ourselves that it's over. But I'll still keep them on, follow them, and I'll. Every time you look at whether it's a photo or a post or something, it's a trigger, and it could send you spiraling down.
I think part of the trouble when people first break up too is that if you think of the brain as like all of these neurological pathways, and some are very well trodden, like thinking about this person that you've been with for however long, you think about them constantly, and then suddenly they're not in your life, but your brain just automatically goes down those paths because they're so it's so used to doing that. So actually, if she says this is at night, it was when her mind wanders, she can actually focus on forging some new pathways in your mind. Like actively sit there and start thinking about other things. Give yourself things that you only focus on in those times. Okay. And sort of, forge new pathways.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, so my response to this is basically you're doing a good job. It says I'm incredibly busy throughout the day.
Yeah, that's good.
So for me, it's always kind of out of your head, out of your house, building structure. And it seems like you have that, and the advice is basically keep going, but be aware of these memories that you keep playing back, and try to break that broken record.
Break that broken record, and try to train your mind to go down different paths. I think.
Before we answer the next question, do you have your phone? Do you want to play back? Your new app where she takes she tries to, there's this little thing that translates language, and so she'll think of something and then she'll put it through her little translator in Korean and then replay it, but it doesn't sound right.
But you don't really speak Korean because you don't know what it's ever saying. I noticed though that when I translate it to Mexican, he gets it.
What was the
Very
one that,
suspicious.
okay, so let me ask you this. So what was the thing that you tried to translate today about fire pants?
Touch my cat, fire pants.
Touch. So she said or wrote in "touch my cat, fire pants," and I don't know, and she wanted to translate that into Korean, and play it. Let's hear what it says.
I don't know.
Well, where's your phone?
Okay.
Ah, it's not even in the room. Hurry up.
It's right here.
Okay. As she's looking, I'll read the next question so we can chew on that.
No, here it comes.
Okay.
Here, oh, wait. Translate, yeah.
You have to put it into the microphone.
Okay. Here it is.
내 고양이 화재 바지를 만지지.
So I heard something about a cat and touching something. That's all I heard in Korean, and because I don't think words like that, those concepts translate into the language. Anyway.
Yeah, but that doesn't really. It's not really English either. Touch my cat, fire pants. Like you get it, but it's not.
What exactly?
I kind of made it up.
What exactly did you mean by that?
I'm a wordsmith.
What did you mean by touch my cat, fire pants? If you could translate it into English first.
I had to say a dirty word.
Starting everything.
Fire pants is like, hot stuff.
Yeah, I get it.
Hot stuff.
I get it.
Touch my cat.
You want to play it in Espanol?
Meow.
Starting everything at once, new city, new home, new job, new business. When you have all of that and can't start one at a time, how do you prioritize so you don't feel like you should be doing something else all the time?
That is so overwhelming.
Yeah. So wait, you can relate to this because you came to LA like 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
Right. So
yeah.
when you start everything, new city, new home, new job, new business, new friends, new everything, how do you, it's overwhelming. It could definitely seem overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming, and it's easy to just completely collapse on yourself, which I did constantly when I first moved here. The only way that I survived that was happily and found peace in that space where it's just complete chaos, is to completely let go and realize that I had no control over anything except the direction that I kept going in. And I had to really break life down to day by day. Okay, well, what does it feel like I should be doing in this moment or next moment or this afternoon? There was no way that I could plan out weeks or even months because there's so many variables. And I came up with a very beautiful metaphor during that time. Would you like to hear it?
Sure, but you didn't answer the question. I think you misinterpreted it.
No, I didn't.
Right. She's asking how do you prioritize? So what comes first?
You can't. You have to just let go of that.
That's your answer. You can't.
You can't. It's not possible. You have to just
Move
let
back.
go of that need to grip on to priorities and all of that, and just sort of let life flow and do its thing,
I see,
and
I
it's
see what you're
all
saying.
gonna fall into place.
So it's not that you can't. You're saying to let life prioritize, make that shuffle for you instead of forcing the shuffle.
Yeah, if you can just relax, which is nearly impossible under those circumstances, but it will become very apparent what you need to do when and what you need to be focusing on. And as long as you know all of these things, you can keep looking around. But it's impossible to try to control life when it's in that state, because think about the Big Bang or whatever, when stars are formed. There's all this stuff floating around, and you can't sit there and pull it all together and decide how you're gonna. I mean, to an extent you can jam your planet together, but if you let it happen kind of organically, it really unfolds in some ways that you wouldn't have been able to predict.
What were you gonna just say?
My beautiful metaphor
yes,
that I
your
made
beautiful
up?
metaphor that you made up.
I hope it comes out right. Okay. So this is what I realized during that point in my life, is that life is like being in this tiny boat on a wild sea, and the only thing that you can only control two things, and that is the direction that you keep steering in, and also how you feel inside of that boat. So if this person has all of these new things going on in their life, there's going to be so many things you can't predict that come up that you're going to have to deal with. And I think of those as like the waves in the ocean. And you're going to have to, and they're going to they're going to knock you off course. Whatever plans or priorities you've made, you're going to get knocked off course. But you can always adjust and bring yourself back to that direction. And then you can always, it takes a lot of work, but to control how you feel in that little boat, and you feel better by letting go of the idea that these waves shouldn't be so high and shouldn't be knocking me around, and I had a plan and all of that.
So how do you because that's kind of confusing. Many may
It made sense in my head.
No, I'm not saying concept confusing your metaphor. I'm talking about this idea of control how you feel. Many people will say that I can't control how the feeling is not something you can control.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
That's true, but not true.
Okay. Okay, I say the first thing I would start is not external things, like new city, new home.
Yeah,
new
so you can't control how you feel by not attaching so much to a particular set way that things have to be. By just letting go, you feel better. Like, okay, something's unfolding, I don't know what, and it feels wild and crazy, but let's see.
You saved that one.
Thanks.
You're like, oh,
okay. Yeah.
So friends, home, job, business, all that is external. I would start with internal, and I talk about this in my little book, Transparency. Self needs. So like this idea of the basic needs that I think that need to be met. And in the process of meeting these needs, the other stuff kind of works itself out. So it's broken down into this: mental, emotional, physical, intellectual. It's lunch. Financial, spiritual, sexual, and I'm gonna add one more. Passion. I put in passional to make it match other things, but okay. Passional. So mental is everything that's your mental needs. You know, so like a therapist might be fulfilling your mental needs. You know, your boyfriend, books, whatever, however you get that. You know, and all these also they could overlap. You know, yoga. I don't know. Emotional needs that need to be met. Physical. For me, fitness is big. I have to exercise and sweat every day. What are your physical needs that you need? Intellectual, feeding your brain. Books, TED Talks, whatever it is. Financial. English is my second language, by the way. So financial is, you talk about business and all this and where to start. It seems like, I don't know what else. Why you just had a brain fart? Anyway, financial meaning you have to, the logistics of it meaning you have to have a job to eat and all that.
She says she has a new job, which is good because under those conditions without a job, that's really tough.
Awesome. Thanks for the save.
Yeah.
And spiritual, so it's not about, less about religion, more about what spiritual means to you, and something, the value in this is something that's bigger than self or outside of self. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then sexual, and this doesn't mean that you have to be having sex.
You can watch porn and masturbate.
Yes, that's one option, and that's logistical. I'm talking about sexual in the sense that feeling sexy. So I don't know if that means buying a dress or fitness can make you feel sexy. You know, it's all these kind of can overlap. But I think
off half your hair.
Cut off your hair.
Half of it.
Half of it. I think your hair looks great. She's been, but I get it. Like I've had really bad hairstyles.
Ooh, yeah. Remember the Lego Man hair?
The Lego Man hair. Then I shaved my head a couple times back in the day when that was kind of the thing to do. And being a follower, I shaved my head and I looked like a monk.
I can't even picture that.
That was horrible. Anyway, so okay, back to, and then the passional is I think that many people neglect what they're passionate about due to whether it's fear or time or whatever it is. And I think that that's a need that we have, that we need to create a space for ourselves to exercise that passion. So whatever that is, art or, usually for people, what they do for a living and what they're passionate about don't line up. Usually they're very different. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying you need to fulfill that need if you can.
I like that list.
I would start there.
I like that list. Yeah. So you're saying like make your space feel good,
mm-hmm.
and then make sure that you're not so busy, working and trying to establish yourself that you're just miserable all the time.
Yeah, I always say you have to like, you're the engine that's going to drive your life. And so you have to work on you and your, whether it's the gasoline you put in your engine, or, if the engine is running well, or adding a turbo, whatever it is. And I think the better that is, the way you maneuver through life is it's gonna play out. I mean, there's more to this, but I think this is how you start, is always under the hood first.
Yeah, and I think too, when she says, how do you prioritize so you don't feel like you should be doing something else all of the time? Just remember that circumstance is incredibly overwhelming. It's not going to be perfect as if it were a script. Life is messy. Life is,
mm-hmm.
We go in all different directions, and just know you're doing the best you can. So you have to ease up on yourself and judging. Am I prioritizing right, and stuff like that.
We're going to end with a long one, but I think it's important. And
no, there's two.
I wonder.
Why?
Because this other one, I don't. Damn, you called me out on my
don't be skimping on office hours.
It's because I don't feel confident in my answer, so I was gonna skip that.
So just sit there awkwardly.
Just leave someone hanging. By the way, as you guys can see, that none of this is rehearsed. We just turn the camera on, and I give her about 10 minutes to review the questions, and I kind of glance at them, and then we off the cuff. Because
and we read the questions and we go, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Because we're not.
But
I don't know about you, but
we come up with stuff, I think.
I'm not trying to be a YouTube star. I think you may be, but I'm not. So that's why there's no rehearsal on this, and no editing and any fancy footwork.
And no
music.
no set either.
No set.
Move over so that all that crap doesn't show. The plant looks nicer this way. There you go.
Okay. My parents divorced when I was 6 or 7. I thought it said 67.
I did too. I
was
laughed.
like, damn. Okay. My parents divorced when I was 6 or 7 years old. Before the actual divorce, they fought often. They never loved each other. Only married because I was conceived, and it would save them money to become married. By the way, that's very common. Sad comment. Since then, I have suffered from severe anxiety and depression, have missed over a year of school, and struggled with mental health. How exactly are these connected? Please reply privately.
Oh, good job. Good job.
I think she meant privately in the sense that on the blog, if I reply, it identifies the person following
Do
me.
you know how old this person is?
No.
They sound like they're still in school, so
It's-
kind of
yeah, they sound kind of young.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the psychology. Thanks. So, she's asking for how exactly are these connected, and I think there is a correlation between divorce and kids going through something, depression, and different ways of coping. Because when you're 6, 7, or 12, or when you're young, when your parents divorce, it shakes everything. So it's like when you
your universe.
right?
cracks.
So it's like when you realize that there was no Santa Claus, and then you're like, holy shit!
No, it's
everything
not
came-
really like that.
No, why not? It is.
It's not.
It is.
Was it really that dramatic for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it depends, but when you realize that your parents actually are not perfect or they have problems, and not only that, but they're going their separate ways.
A lot of
it
times
doesn't
the
make-
fighting before the divorce can be more scarring than the actual
Yeah.
divorce too.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say that I think the divorce was an event or a catalyst that caused other events that eventually led you to being depressed and anxiety, maybe. But I
Not
don't.
necessarily. It could have been their entire, the way they parented and the way they treated each
Right.
other.
So, but that's not the divorce itself. So you know what I'm saying? So the divorce is one event. I think your anxiety and depression comes from
the whole picture.
the whole picture, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
not the divorce.
You're right.
I saw a picture recently. I follow a lot of anatomy blogs. Of the
It's called porn. She calls them anatomy blogs. It's called
yeah.
porn.
Yeah. No. Of the entire human nervous system
Yeah.
laid out on a metal table, and it was, I don't know, millions of, probably billions of nerve endings going from very thick to very thin, and it really struck me how, like, we have these bodies and we feel like this is our organization, but I think when it comes to feelings, we are like jellyfish. We are absorbing everything in all of those nerve endings, and I've learned a lot about this from MC on your team recently. How trauma is anything that causes us to split, where part of us stays frozen in that suffering, and then part of us goes on and copes and puts on this show that we're fine and all of that. But I think that the messages, especially as children, they're so... Is absorbitative a word?
No, you're asking the wrong person. You're asking someone that thought passional was a word.
Well, the things that we pick up in our homes growing up, I think, it's just amazing. And I'm curious how old this person is, but you've got to look at all of that and figure out what those messages were that you received about life, about yourself, about other humans, about hope, and all of those things that kind of keep us going through life in a good mindset. I know it's something I've been exploring my entire life, and I feel like I get to a point and I'm like on a new vantage point where I really see how it was shaped in a certain way, and then I go on a little further and I see something new that I sort of like, these messages that I internalized. But that's what I was going to say about MC. She said that these things that traumatize us in that way, where we split, a lot of it we don't have words for, so you can't talk about it, but you feel it. It becomes a somatic memory, so it's like stored in the body, and so you react in all different ways: anxiety, depression. And then as you get older, you're in scenarios that really have nothing to do with the past, but you're reacting with the same set of feelings, if that makes sense. So what did this person want to know?
I don't know, but
how are these connected?
And
they are.
I was starting to. I zoned out because I was thinking. I was starting to feel bad about trying to pass this question.
You should feel bad.
To scroll real fast to go to the next one.
You should feel bad. You should apologize.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I've missed over a year of school and struggle with mental health. How exactly are these connected? So there's no scientific answer where it's like, well, this is how it's connected to this and this. I think that if you decide to see a counselor or therapist, you're going to know how things are connected for you and your story. But I can't. I don't know enough
they
about.
Absolutely, you could say they absolutely are connected. There's no way that there's not, and this happens to every kid that goes through this, I think. So you're not alone or weird or anything. It's humanity. But
by the way, if you don't drink water like I do, this is the best way to get. So you fill this pitcher up, any pitcher.
Are you really interrupting this
question? No, I'm gonna go back to it
to talk about your hydration.
It's important. No one drinks enough water, so you fill up a pitcher and you make sure that by the end of the day, it's extremely.
Hey John,
extremely
where'd you
helpful.
learn that trick?
From you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, I think so. This person wants to know how these things are connected, and that's really good. You should figure that out. You can't.
Oh.
It's not like a cookie cutter answer.
Right.
It's very personal. Right. You have to go back into that whole story and all the feelings that you had and figure out how they affected you to the point where. Because depression, anxiety, all of that, it's caused by thought patterns.
Right.
So it's up to you to figure out how those are connected. But they definitely are, and you don't have to suffer and go on in life, having a shitty life because this happened to you. You can take full control of the situation, but figuring out how it's connected is the journey.
Fact, divorce does shake you and your world when you're young. Fact, 60% almost of people in the world are divorced or getting a divorce.
Yeah.
Fact, we live in a fatherless nation. I just threw that in there. Fact.
Yeah, that but
no,
that's
but
true. Even when a father when there's a divorce,
right.
That's obvious. But
right.
I think a lot of for the people that I talk to or even friends, the father, even if it's not divorced, is not really emotionally present.
Right. So physically or emotionally.
So they're still
you.
fatherless.
Right.
And sometimes motherless.
Right. Anyway, yeah, I agree with Padilla. A great question, and I think the value is now trying to figure out this answer, going after this answer, and seeing where that leads.
That's your journey.
That's your journey, yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, so this next question is a long one, but I think many can relate to it. So I'm going to move this. Our notes are on our computer, so I'm going to move that here, and then Padilla's going to read it.
No.
Yeah, you're better at reading than I am. So you have to read loud since you're soft-spoken.
I learned what love is or should be from growing up in my parents' very dysfunctional marriage. I married an older guy at a fairly young age who had a lot of his own emotional baggage as well. I have to burp. I'm sorry. I was manipulated and made to feel less than in very subtle ways. Ooh, that's good that she can see that. Now I'm able to understand how he did this. 7 years into the marriage, he left me after falling out of love with me. During counseling at the time, I was sent to a battered woman's support group. He had never physically abused me. At the time, I did not understand the extent that the emotional abuse had gotten to. A year later, we got back together and we spent 2 years in marriage counseling, and everything seemed great until about 7 years to the date of his first leaving me, he repeated the act. This time, though, after finalizing an adoption, he again no longer loved me, hadn't loved me for 5 years, or the child we adopted. This time I was done. I was heartbroken, and a part of me will probably always love parts of him. But I did not want to raise my child in a loveless marriage, which is what he proposed after he pushed me away. We went through a lot together. We found out he was sterile, and I accepted that he has a strong personality, and I was able to see the good in him.
What does sterile mean?
Can't,
He can't have babies.
doesn't have any
Doesn't have any
shooters.
Shooters. Okay. He's shooting blanks.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to just insult him because we're mad at him because he was mean to her?
No.
Okay. I accepted that he was a strong personality. I was able to see the good in him. He is all I have known since I'm 21 and I'm now 37.
Mm.
My question after all of this is, how do I unlearn these patterns of what I believe love should be? I would like to meet someone else, but I'm afraid that the same thing will happen. I know I want to be respected and loved, but I'm afraid to believe anyone else could love me, and I'm scared shitless of trusting anyone again. Within 6 months, he began living with someone else and her kids, which I have to be honest was very hurtful. I feel like he did want a family, just not with me, obviously. I hope you read this, and have a great day.
Oh, sweet.
That was nice.
Okay.
Wow.
So what are your thoughts? It's funny because I always have these simple answers because there's just a sentence here and then I expand on that, and then you have a little more. You paint a picture and then you have which is good.
It's hard when you first read these because a lot of times I feel like I have more questions about the scenario than answers. Like I'm curious how she could go through counseling for battered women and then end up back in that situation. I'm wondering like if he, because usually under those conditions you would have a different perspective of him and then he would no longer be attractive. So I'm curious if he changed and grew during that time.
I think it depends. I think it depends on how long you've been working on yourself. But I do agree with her in the sense that, so there's this pattern that happens when you're attracted to someone that is abusive, and then you end up kind of outgrowing that person, and then you meet someone else or the same person, and you could smell those things very fast. Like a shark smells blood, and then you're no longer attracted to those characteristics as you were before they actually repel you. So that's what you're talking about. I think that happens over time. So you know, if she is, if she worked on herself or went to 2 sessions of something or better.
She said a year though.
Yeah, I mean, a year is very fast. I mean, I don't know if you know.
That's true.
And so it depends on their story and how much work they've done and all that stuff. So my answer to this is, so her question is basically.
There's a couple. Let's see.
But her main question is, how do I
unlearn the patterns of what I believe love should be?
Right. So, you know, the greatest traction to growth is always going to be experience. So there's different doors into growth, right? So you can learn about growth through self-help books or through having these revelations and a lot of stuff that makes sense to you on paper. But it's not as powerful as if you actually have an experience. So the goal would be to give yourself a new experience. So getting into a relationship or into some kind of dance with someone that is healthy and that provides a safe space, a safe container for you, and realizing that I'm not defective, realizing whatever your false beliefs are, that I can trust again, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? I think before you do that, I know that's why I'm interrupting you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So fear. So 2 fears. One, I wrote down here. She said, afraid to believe that anyone else could love you, you as in me. So you have that fear, and if you pull from that fear, that's not gonna. What you want isn't gonna manifest.
Yeah, and you have to realize that that's gonna be residue from the abuse that she suffered. Yeah. It's not based on anything that she is.
Right. So getting less afraid, and however you do that, that's a whole different conversation, and that's might be a therapeutic process. But conquering those fears so you can give yourself a new experience, and then through that experience, you realize what's possible.
sometimes you just have to believe that someone's gonna love you anyway. Because I have been in
Sounds like a
several
t-shirt.
several pretty emotionally abusive relationships, and that's like a typical thing that someone, a guy who does things like that will sort of spin it like, you're so defective, you're lucky that I love you and no one else is ever going to love you. And that's like a way that they keep you hooked in their relationship. And there's some sort of like just a freedom in going, well, oh well, at least I'm not going to be in a situation that makes me feel like shit. On some level, I'm going to dare to believe that I am lovable, and it's not determined by what this person sees. It's like a giant F you.
What were you going to say before you interrupted me?
I was going to say that, okay, before you go out and try to have this experience that you were talking about, I think you should just take paper and a pen and sit down and actually get really clear on what you want or you believe love could look like in your life. Because I think we've talked about this before, like our idea of love, we don't really get clear on it. It's just like a giant hodgepodge of things we saw from our parents, ideas we get from movies and media and all of that, little snippets we pick out of other people's relationships that we like or don't like. We don't really, but if you sit down and you really like customize what would love look like for you as an individual with all of your nuances and stuff, how do you feel, how does it play out, get really specific on all of that, and then go out and try to have that experience. You're going out with a lot more clarity, and I think there's less of a chance of you just going for someone who's probably you're attracted to because there's something familiar about them because they're just like all this other guy or whatever. And that's, you know, in transparency, you talk about non-negotiables, and that's, I think, a good exercise too. If you haven't read John's book, it's really short and easy to read and amazing, and it talks about how do you define non-negotiables?
Things that you were willing to not negotiate about yourself. Things that you're not willing to negotiate about yourself.
I didn't put you on the spot, did I?
No. Things that you're not willing to negotiate about yourself anymore, or about a relationship, or about
so ways that I will not feel in my life.
Non-negotiables.
Right.
We talk over each other a lot. I just noticed.
I know. When you hear me talking, you're supposed to be quiet.
There's a difference between non-negotiables that are like ironclad and preferences. So if you just like tall white guys with blonde hair, then that's not non-negotiable. That's just being narrow.
Yeah.
So when you things that you're not willing to negotiate would be like, you know, someone punching me in the face is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, but when she talks about scroll up a little bit. Go up.
Yeah.
She talks about all of the ways she was manipulated and made to feel less than in subtle ways. I think it's really good she's aware of that, and I think those little things are things that, whatever they are, list them out and say, as non-negotiable, I will not be in a relationship where I feel this, and this.
Right. And by the way, people have they can make a list for you anytime. They'll say, okay, this is my non-negotiable. This is, you know, and it doesn't have to be huge things. Like one of my non-negotiables is really good banter, because I find that in a relationship without it, because I've been in relationships without the good banter, and I've been in relationships with good banter, and it changes the chemistry and everything. So it doesn't have to be like, you know, obvious non-negotiables like abusive relationships. But people can write down their non-negotiables and be firm, but many have trouble actually executing them because a handsome face or something else, you know, I don't, and then they start negotiating themselves. So being aware of what you want is one thing, but that's only like half of the piece. The other piece is actually giving that to yourself and holding on to them.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're allowing space. Going back to my concept of containers, you're allowing cracks to happen. You know, he only hit me once. You know, it's whatever. You only did, you know, negotiating. Anyway, so thank you. That was really good, and I think ultimately the goal would be to give yourself a new experience, because I think that's where the traction is, and focus on your fear. So
Or
fear.
maybe lots of them.
I was talking.
Well, focus on your fear.
Focus on your fears, and afraid to believe that anyone else could love you is one fear that you wrote. That the same thing will happen again, which is very common. It's another fear that you wrote. Okay, I'm sorry, what you're saying before you interrupted me? Nothing? Is that it? Okay, so we're going to end with those questions, and
Wait,
I want
that
to say...
doesn't make sense. Focus on your fears.
Oh, focus on dissolving your fears. Yeah.
Focus on your fears.
It's obvious.
And never
It's,
leave the house.
They all know. When I say fears, they're not. I'm not saying to make them grow.
Focus
all right.
on-
So, dude, read between the lines.
What? It's my job to make sure you make sense sometimes.
It is. If you're in the community, if you're a member, I always answer your questions first. And if you hit newsfeed and you see that you're inside the site, on the right side it says Office Hours Ask a Question. Hit that button. It's not like a panic button. Just use it. It's okay because it shoots. I think a lot of people think that there's glass in front of it. And they're like, oh, I'll hit this button when there's an emergency from going. No, you know
The hammer comes down on top of your pillow, wakes you up in the middle of the night. That'd be awesome.
Just hit the button, and because I think a lot of people think that I get, oh, he's not going to answer me or whatever. I do get a lot of emails, but like if you're a member, I always answer your emails first, and this is a very quick and easy way to do it. So I will get to your questions. Just ask them. And also, if I don't have time, I have an entire team, people that specialize in things like trauma and sex and all this stuff. So it will get answered in some way. That's the whole point of this, right?
Yes.
All right, guys, and if you want to see past episodes of Office Hours, and if you're interested in that kind of dialogue, then we're on YouTube now. A brand new channel, Office Hours. I don't know what the link. Just Google it, Office Hours. Yeah. All right, guys, be well.